Can you picture an era when a child's life held such little value that they were purposely placed inside the enclosure of a hazardous zoo animal? A period when a child was deliberately positioned near waters inhabited by alligators, serving as bait to attract the savage creature for hunters? I'm talking about, it's no surprise that by now, everyone is aware that Ron DeSantis is actively trying to stop history from being taught in Florida. Yep, that's right, and if you didn't know, now you do. He doesn't want schools in Florida to teach about slavery, African studies, oppression, or systemic racism. But think about this. Maybe he's so determined to stop history because he wants to hide it. You might not know, but Florida has a really dark history when it comes to how they treated enslaved people. Here's an example, and I warn you, what you are about to learn is gut-wrenching, heartbreaking, and beyond disturbing. Did you know that in the state of Florida, yes, you heard that right, alligator hunting brought significant profits during the 1800s and 1900s? The skin was valuable for creating products like shoes, bags, belts, and more. Yet, white hunters frequently faced danger, risking their arms and even lives while trying to lure alligators to the surface. As a result, they turned to a disturbing practice, using bait. Young black children were employed as bait to capture alligators. Some were infants, some were 1 year old, and some were toddlers. This unsettling tactic is believed to have been employed by white individuals, especially during the era of slavery in places like Florida, Louisiana, and other regions of the American South. It's reported that white men would target slaves who had infants, and these children would be taken away during the day while their parents were working in the fields. Alligator hunters would seize these babies and transport them to the swamp, where they were sometimes confined in enclosures similar to small chicken coops. During the night, these hunters would return, restraining the infants by tying ropes tightly around their necks and torsos. Hunters would toss the babies into the water while they were tied to ropes. In just a short time, the alligators would attack them. The alligator's jaws would grip the child, and once that happened, you could only see the rope. An article from the Washington Times on June 3, 1908, has a headline that says, "Baits alligators with Paganinis." The article goes on to describe how the New York Zoological Gardens zookeeper used 2 black children to lure crocodiles and alligators to their summer area. These children were sent into an enclosure with over 25 of these animals. The reptiles chased the children, entertaining zoo visitors and leading the creatures from their winter area to a tank for summer viewing. According to the newspaper, the zookeeper spotted 2 small colored children and decided to use them for this purpose. He thought that alligators and crocodiles liked the taste of black people. He, and others who allowed this to happen, believed that these children's lives were worth very little. Surprisingly, there is no mention of punishment for the zookeeper in the 166-word article. It offers not one adjective that would imply that the actions of the zookeeper were despicable, unthinkable, or even reckless. Now, did you know that the nursery rhyme, "5 little monkeys swinging in a tree, teasing Mr. Alligator can't catch me," was created as a result of this practice? And if you think this story is too painful or too graphic to hear, imagine how the parents of these babies felt. If they could experience it, you can certainly continue hearing about it. Well, this leaves us asking the question, no. Unbelievably no. Surprised as I am, well, hit that subscribe button and like the video as we get deeper into this. The notion that black children were used as bait for alligators didn't originate from just one zookeeper. It was a custom in the American Everglades that gave rise to stories and even souvenirs. In 1923, Time magazine reported that in Chipley, Florida, colored babies were used for alligator bait. The babies would play in shallow water, while skilled marksmen kept watch from hidden spots nearby. When an alligator approached, the rifleman would shoot it. A Miami New Times article described a different, more disturbing approach. Alligator hunters would place crying black babies too young to walk at the water's edge. With ropes around their necks and waists, the babies would cry and splash until a crocodile grabbed one of them. The hunters would only kill the alligator after it had the baby in its jaws, essentially trading the child's lives for an alligator skin. They even created postcards, pictures, and trinkets to remember this horrifying practice. This terrible deed was later depicted in sheet music, postcards, and small sculptures. In the years that followed, a candy company that made black licorice candies created a tasteless advertisement. It showed a hungry-looking alligator staring at a black baby. Some argue that the wealth of souvenirs, jokes, and festivities might be based on fiction rather than actual occurrences, but the distinction is almost inconsequential. These incidents are like tiny drops within the vast swamp that is the maafa. Derived from the Swahili word signifying great disaster, maafa in English encapsulates a history of injustices and ongoing repercussions from the horrors inflicted upon African people. Commencing with the transportation of Africans to America for enslavement, the American maafa is laden with dehumanizing acts of violence. Packed into a ship's hold for months, African individuals lay side by side amidst the filth. Those who succumbed to illness were cast overboard and preyed upon by sharks that had learned to trail the vessel for an easy meal. Destined for a fate of cruelty, the Africans who survived the voyage endured further physical and mental torment. Torn apart from their families, marked with brands, subjected to dismemberment, castration, and rape. These are wrongs that can never be corrected, brutalities that were never mourned, and atrocities that were disregarded and even cynically commemorated. As recently as the 1960s, an illustrator carelessly depicted a black infant in the jaws of an alligator, adding insult to injury and making a mockery of the past. As we conclude this eye-opening journey into the lesser-known chapter of history, I want to leave you with a question that delves deep into our collective consciousness. Reflect on the past, the struggles endured, and the resilience showed. Consider how stories of human suffering and triumph shape our understanding of today. Now, ask yourself, what can we learn from the shadows of history to create a brighter, more empathetic future? Let your thoughts and emotions flow in the comments below. And remember, understanding where we've been is essential for charting a path toward a more just and compassionate world. Thank you for joining us on this expedition